Hi everyone, my name is Anaka Aiyar and I joined TCI as a Postdoctoral Associate last year after I finished my PhD in economics from the University of California in Riverside. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about a paper that I've been co-authoring with Prabhu on called Diversity in Development, Interstate Differences in the India Growth Story. Now the spark that inspired me to explore this question came out of a discussion with Prabhu on how aggregate measures of development, such as income per capita, undernutrition rates, obesity rates, or agricultural productivity, do a fairly poor job of explaining differences across the country and within states in India. When we looked at the data, and sort of in favor of our hypothesis, we found that states like Bihar of late compared to countries in sub-Saharan Africa, while states like Goa look more like Latin American countries when you're looking at incomes per capita. Even in terms of agricultural productivity, a state like Punjab looks similar to Argentina in terms of wheat productivity, and a state like Madhya Pradesh looks like somewhere in South Sudan. And if you look at this graph, the second graph on the yield of rice and wheat, you can see that there seems to be the story in which certain states seem to be pulling away from others, and there are people who seem to be, states who seem to be left behind in the process of development. So this sort of reinforced our thinking that states had drastically different development strategies, trajectories, and any nationally centered paradigm of development might fall short in explaining these differences. Now, when we looked into the literature, we found that there were two paradigms of development that have sort of consumed the mind space of the interstate development debates. One is an explanation that geography plays a big role in explaining these differences. And while this might have been a good explanation to explain first mover advantages, this theory is not amenable to the explanation as to why do there productivity differentials that exist across within a particular geography. For example, if you look at Kerala and Andhra Pradesh, you see that they have different productivity levels. The second kind of class of models are income models. And income models will generally compare a forward, which is a high-income state, to a low-income state. But the problem with these models, though they work in explaining many variables, is they're not quite able to explain why states have come to be in this particular way. So what we do in our model is that we build on these, the advantages of these models, and we introduce two new ways of accounting for historical investment strategies that impact current levels of productivity. And we do this by capturing two important outcome measures of the process of structural transformation. One is that we use productivity levels as measured by states' GDP per capita, and the second that we use is agriculture share in GDP, which is a sort of placeholder for the level of structural transformation within a state. Now, using these two variables simultaneously, we are able to capture the current productivity differentials across states that have resulted from different investment strategies over time. So by our classification, we have 4 types of states. One are stunted structural transformation states, where they still depend largely on agriculture for growth, but they have a low productive economy. These states are characterized by subsistence agriculture systems, very high poverty, rural and urban poverty rates, high undernutrition rates, and Bihar and Madhya Pradesh would be good examples of states like these. The second group of states are resource extraction-led growth states. In these particular states, they try to move away from agriculture by focusing on resource mining, but the low productive agriculture states are actually weighing down their progress. These states have decent urban development indicators, but their rural indicators are, in terms of development, are very poor. And examples of states like these would be Jharkhand and Odisha. The third group of states are agriculture-led growth states. They are high productivity states, and their structural transformation processes have been driven by agriculture, a very productive agriculture sector. They have very low levels of rural and urban poverty, and their economic growth levels are pretty high. But the problem of these states is that right now they're facing a huge epidemic of obesity. Right? And states like Punjab and Andhra Pradesh would best represent what we're talking about here in India. And finally, the fourth group of states, what we call rapidly transforming states, are those whose economies have started off as high agricultural productive economies, but now they have invested more in non-agricultural growth strategies. They're en route to completing the structural transformation process in a way that we think it should progress, However, they still have, rural poverty is still a problem in these states. An example of these states would be Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. So in the next graph, we sort of color-coded some outcome measures of interest based on the type of structural transformation. And at first glance, we can see there's a clustering of outcomes across states within the same typologies. Furthermore, by classifying states in this way, we feel we can create more tailor-made policy recommendations that encourage growth, improve nutrition, and betters agriculture at the state level. For example, we can say that a state like Punjab, which is focused on agriculture, may now need to focus on on-farm diversification and climate-sensitive agriculture, versus a state like Bihar needs to focus on increasing productivity at the first level. We're also able to say things like a state like Odisha, which depends on the non-agriculture sector for its economic growth, now needs to focus on low-skilled, non-farm employment opportunities for its rural population, versus states like Gujarat and Punjab now need to start focusing on urban development. So in conclusion, our model iterates three main ideas for state development. One is that successful agricultural growth strategies are important determinants of current levels of progress, and a weak agriculture sector will weigh you down. Obesity is an important problem of the future and is closely linked to higher incomes and not to agriculture systems. And right now in India, national level strategies for development need to account for the heterogeneous differences in the current structural transformation processes across states. State-led development is the way forward.